It's always a dangerous signal when otherwise reasonable people start thinking that investment returns are the most interesting thing they could talk about. Why don't we pause there for a moment, and let me pick up another theme that Joe Iannuso introduced, and I found myself commenting on inadvertently, and that is the ways in which the otherwise decentralized university have been making efforts over recent years to coordinate more closely as a management team. Susan, why don't you start?
And I think the Alumni Center is a great example of that on a couple of different levels. You alluded, Jim talked about the Alumni Center and how that sort of came to be, and it was one of those, I think, wonderful confluences of great partnerships inside the university and a bit of being in the right place at the right time, because we knew we needed to move from the Interchurch Center. Our lease was coming up and the university needed to find space for us. And you know, we were thinking we might end up in rented space in Midtown, or, I mean, there were all kinds of possibilities that we talked about, because the fact is we don't have much space. And I think we all agree that the priority, you know, we have to think about faculty and students first. That is, after all, what the university is all about. It was Joe who, as he was trying to figure out the best and highest use for the School of Social Work, looking at the neighborhood and all kinds of other contextual things he had to deal with, I think called Robert, and then Robert called me, and I remember Robert saying, would you consider, you know, moving into a renovated McVicker? And, you know, what's going through my mind is, are you kidding, you know, to move back into university space, having been in rental space for so long, and to, you know, the sense of having our own building. It didn't take very long, you know, to sort of snap that up and sign the lease or whatever.
But she did fake it so she'd get a better deal.
So, because one of the things we talked about early on, and one of the things that we looked at with Joe, yeah. We had, one of the other things that had been going on, and some of it had come through CAA and a lot of it had come through the Columbia College Board of Visitors, was this profound disappointment that there was not any place on campus that really was an alumni space. And no one was expecting that it was going to be, you know, some huge facility or whatever, but that there wasn't, you know, there wasn't any place. And already we had been talking about that, and then space for the staff. And as we looked at how to configure the space for the staff, and we knew we wanted a much more open environment and everything else, it also meant we had space. We could take the ground floor area and dedicate that to this, what I would call, wonderful first step in providing, you know, space for alumni on campus. And Joe and his colleagues in facilities were incredible partners in helping us work, and it was, you know, like building your own house times 20. And a couple of my colleagues, Fred Van Sickle and Liz Braden, spent amazing amounts of time. We got some alumni involved in taking a look at how we were configuring the Alumni Center. We went and visited alumni spaces all over the city. It was a wonderful partnership. And this would never have happened if Joe and Robert hadn't been committed to the goals that we had for alumni going forward. I mean, yes, the president had to be committed, the trustees, because they had to allocate the money for this, but no one would have even had this idea. They wouldn't have even had the opportunity had it not been for our colleagues who, you know, came forward with this. So that, I think, in one way, a great sense within the university administration, that we really do feel like we have a shared vision for where the university's going, and that we do work across in a really great way. And Jim also mentioned the fact that in this building we have college and university alumni and development staff. Until very recently, engineering was also there. They've now moved back to the engineering school. And although we were in space together in the Interchurch Center, it was very undesirable, not very attractive, and not commendable to partnership and working together. In the Alumni Center, it's very different, and I think for the first time have an opportunity to live out what we've been talking about in recent years, and that is, more collaboration and more close working relationships. So on that level as well, I think we've been able to bridge some of the silos, if you will, in a really productive way. And I just hope we continue. I've realized how fragile those things are. A lot of it depends on who's in my job, who's in Joe's job, who the deans are at any particular point in time. And everyone needs to share that continued commitment to the working together. So, don't assume it's solved forever. I think each generation of leaders have to recreate it in a way.
That's really true.